Once upon a time, there was a carpenter living in the royal city. Her skill was beyond compare. People said she had the magic to breathe life into wood. If she wanted to, those lifelike puppets she created could become alive. The old carpenter loved crafting, but she was facing a most difficult challenge. As she grew older, her eyesight was no longer as sharp, and her hand that held the carving knife wouldn't stay still. Could that be the end? She remembered what people said about her. If she was as good as they say, couldn't she craft her own assistant? She made up her mind, then began to work. What should a perfect child, a real child, have? He should have the strongest body. The child was born. He was sturdy yet nimble, and once his spring is sprung, he could run 2 laps in the royal city with no one able to keep up. Everyone congratulated the old carpenter, but she shook her head and said, "No, this isn't a real child. What should a perfect child, a real child, have? He should have the most beautiful face." The child was born. His beauty caught everyone's eyes. The king invited him to dance at the palace for foreign guests. Everyone congratulated the old carpenter, but she shook her head and said, "No, this isn't a real child. What should a perfect child, a real child, have?" More puppets were born from the old carpenter's hands. An entertainer who could make children burst into laughter. A grand magician with unpredictable tricks. But no, she shook her head and said, "No, these aren't real children." One night, the old carpenter sat at her workbench, designing the blueprints for her next child. All the puppets quietly stood by her. Suddenly she shivered. The window wasn't closed shut. The howling wind swept away all the warmth from the room. The old carpenter stood up to shut the window, then went to the fireplace for warmth. For a moment, she had an idea she didn't fully understand. Perhaps the dancing candlelight added some warmth to the puppets' faces. She realized that puppets get cold too. The old carpenter took off her scarf and picked up the blanket from her lap. She made sure all the puppets were snug and warm, then went back to her table. Her pencil swooshed around as she began sketching. Soon, a puppet took shape on the paper. She picked up her knife and began carving on the most ordinary piece of wood. Soon enough, a new puppet was sitting on her workbench. There was nothing special about it, but the old carpenter let out a satisfied sigh, as if she completed a masterpiece. She leaned down to kiss the puppet's forehead gently, just like an ordinary goodnight kiss from a mother. Then did the same to the other ones. After that, the old carpenter went to bed and slept peacefully. The next morning, she woke up with someone kissing her forehead. She opened her eyes to find a child, a real child, smiling at her.